Eggs.
Thought you got away, didn't you, Mustang?
I am so shocked that Beric the horse is one of the better and more interesting characters of the Rings of Power. So remember Isildur? His horse goes to find him, and then we get this scene from out of Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron.
Eggs. We ain't gonna eat ya. Yet.
By the way, at any point, this guy could have let the horse go. I've seen people get dragged when they get lodged in the stirrups. That's why you have to have those ones that can, like, unlatch. But if your boot gets lodged in the stirrup, there's no way for you to pull yourself up while a 1,500-pound animal is running at 40 miles per hour. But this guy's just holding onto the rope. He could have easily had let go. Are they hurting that much for food? What was he expecting to happen? So these dudes are all like, that there be the dark forest. Ain't nothing coming out of that joint.
Let him go. And there's the Black Forest. Nothing comes out of there alive.
See? So Horsey is running, and look, I love equines. I absolutely love horses. So this was just top tier entertainment for me. It was more entertaining than everything else I've seen. And I'm like, please, Horsey, don't die. And we already know that he's looking for his owner. He sees the cave, and normally no horse is gonna go into a freaking cave. Do you know how hard it is to try and get horses to load into trailers? And you could see through those things, much less going into a deep, dark cave. It's not the normal behavior for a horse. But of course, Beric is a character in the Rings of Power, and it's fantasy, and he finds Isildur. So he feels something slimy, and honestly, the horse would have heard this. We realize that they're in a, nasty place full of spider eggs, and now they must get out. This orc guy is still alive that was in front of him, and poor Beric has to now fight off the spiders. If this was realistic, that horse would have been done bolted. Disgusting, man. Freaking nasty. You know how nice it is to wake up and then find that your horse is licking you awake, knowing that one person knows you're alive and you might have a way out of here? And then to realize after you escape that you probably have a bunch of spiders inside of you that are ready to hatch and chest burst from out of you?
Disgusting!
Maybe it's the fact they look like freaking hands. Like, Anyway, we get a recreation of the spider scene.
Oh my god.
Where Isildur is fighting for his freaking life, and the mama spider is like, no, my kids must eat. And I like how she's so freaking intelligent. This could have been its own horror movie, man, I swear. Killing off the baby spiders, and the whole cat and mouse, the mother's looking for revenge, and she knows how to avoid weapons, and she's super intelligent. Wait, wasn't there a horror movie that I was supposed to watch called, I think it's called like Stinging Sensation or something? Hold on. And it was making this weird whistle noise, like... YouTube and Google, thank you so much. You make things so hard, but yet so easy sometimes. I just typed in spider whistle movie, and yeah, Sting. That's what it's called. I haven't watched this yet. I think like the baby, not the baby, the spider escapes.
Excitement's growing in the...
Thank fuck. Okay, I can watch the movie. So, now knowing that I won't... Jesus Christ. What in the almighty bulltox is this? Is this the prequel to Beetlejuice? Like, what the freaking... Like, okay, we're getting off topic. I'm sorry, I know I'm losing concentration, but you know how shorts are set up sometimes? Tell me that this is not a great... Like, look at this. These two shorts are lined up, and it looks like they're one whole thing. This guy's grabbing the freaking spider leg. Like, what? I love when coincidences like that happen. That is so freaking artistic. I love it. It says, who's next? The confrontation. And that is so freaking awesome. Oh my god. Dude, what? I'm gonna screenshot that. There we go. Anyway, miraculously, Isildur makes it out on it. Oh, Lord. Stop. I hate when they freaking... walk like freaking fingers. Ew, nasty. Gross. Tarantulas are cute though. I like tarantulas. They're so fluffy and cute, and then they go bald when you like touch them wrong.
Some tarantulas use their hair for self-defense. Most tarantulas from South Central and North America have urticating hairs on their abdomen. They can kick into the air whenever they feel threatened. These hairs are like tiny harpoons that can be very irritating when they lodge into your skin, kind of like fiberglass.
Back in Numenor, people seem to not be respecting the queen. A lot of people's lives were lost, and her being blind doesn't help because they now think she's weak.
Queen Regent, is this how we repay our fallen?
It's only the beginning of our mourning.
Come on, let's go outside. Go outside for what? We gonna fight.
Now, first of all, I'm sorry. This is the queen. How do you let someone get this close to her? What is this, freaking Trump? Like, how do you see something like this? Where are the They watched her walk up to this woman like a freaking panther in slow motion and let this woman get close enough to the queen to slap her. This could have been a freaking shank. Are people stupid or something? Look at how this whole thing plays out. This woman takes something and she approaches the queen. Nobody is like, stay back. They had enough time to react, bro. Dogs can react faster when they see people approaching their masters than these freaking good-for-nothing freaking guards did. Their whole idea is to protect the freaking monarch. And they're just sitting back there like they're freaking on their 16th hour edge session, completely conked out and oblivious to the fact that their queen is impossible date. And what about you, senor? Why have you not stepped in to protect the queen? She's blind. He knows this. You were her literal eyes right now, and you allowed someone to get close enough to freaking... These people are so dumb. Wow. Wow.
Is this how we repay our fallen?
It's only the beginning of our mourning.
Bitch, I know she's upset. You're not the only one who lost a child. The queen lost her freaking sight. I mean, clearly, I thought she was hiding it from everyone, but everyone clearly knows at this point. It's revealed later. So not only are you a bitch, like, you're hurting, I get it, and probably if I were in that situation, I probably would have done what the queen did here, but then I would have processed it later and be like, you know what? I should probably cut that person's hands off, because you being bold enough to do something like that, knowing everybody has lost someone, including me, and then you freaking hit a blind woman. You're not even G enough to hit me when I have my sight. You wait till I'm See, the Brooklyn in me would have broken her freaking fingers. Wait. But then the compassion person in me would have been like, you know, it's okay. I understand who you're hurting. Who did you lose? My son. And then when she feels her and then hugs her and the mom starts crying, I start crying too. But really and truly, like, that was, what are the monarchs here in this thing? Because, like, usually in these situations, that wouldn't happen. And the politics are already on thin ice right now, so I don't know if she did that for a political move or she really just is compassionate. Either way, this makes her look like a good person, but it does not make her look like a strong leader. As sweet as that was, people don't want to see how caring you are. They want to see how strong you are and the ability that you have to protect them. Yet your people that you have under you couldn't even protect you from a freaking slap. And her cousin is obviously trying to overthrow her. Moss from IT crowd over here is like, watch how you talk about them. And this woman is a traitor, or sort of. Now, blind woman realizes that her crystal ball is gone while these guys plot against her. Apparently, judging from how this woman with the very tight face is speaking, she took the crystal ball.
But we are safe here. We have a home. Must we go to war again? You told me Sauron was dead. Let us leave him that way.
There are some dangers in this world about which it is a father's burden to know, and a son's burden to trust him. Trust me, my son, when I tell you that we will never truly be safe until we've made certain Sauron is no more.
So this part is confusing to me, and I know this is the subject of a lot of discussion, but what's actually going on here with Calvin Klein Orc? He's asking, must we go to war? Is he like the freaking ISTJ of the freaking orc world? Is he the one guy that's like Hiccup Haddock that's like, I don't want bloodshed, I just want to be a good father? They're humanizing these things that I was told went around devouring, what's the word that I can use in place of the freaking R word? Stretching people's walls without their permission. You know what I mean, okay? Like meat grinding. There you go. If that makes sense, because never mind. Anyway, that's what I thought these things did. Like, you know, Goblin Slayer, like I thought that's what these things were. I mean, you know, and then they made him look more human and sweet. Like, Father, I don't want to go to war. Father, see my child and my wife. I'm sorry, that's how they would speak. But you know what I mean. I don't even know why I did that. Forgive me. You know I'm crazy. Shut up. Anyway, he looks upset and his wife, wife? Ew. And they're like, you know, with the fucking... I'm sorry. I'm just so confused. What is happening? Oh my god, what is happening right now? Is this a thing? Like, okay, I guess people are like, but they're slaves, it's not their fault that they... What are we actually doing? So, okay, we had this discussion, and I posted it on Twitter, because, you know, I'm new to all of this, but just from the little tiny infinitesimal experience that I have, I know that orcs are just these weapons of destruction, right? They're completely corrupted creatures, kind of like akin to the freaking I Am Legend zombie. But even in that, they show that they're human. So when I opened up the discussion on Twitter, people said that they used to be able to reproduce, but then Saruman found a way to perfect a new brain, the ORCS, via the way you see it done in the Fellowship of the Ring. And they were once elves, so elves can mate. I don't know what this means. They're taking what Absolute Shit Extra Credits said as advice. This is gonna be PCAST. And some are suggesting that it is a decent creative direction to hint that the orc are more than what they seem. Another person said, I'm probably going to be actual lead for this, but orcs are basically kind of corrupted elves, so I don't see why they'd lose their ability to breed. And it seems as though fans of Tolkien stories can't even agree on what the orcs actually are. Not what they are, but the portrayal of them, saying that Tolkien himself had a problem with settling on how to portray the orcs. From what I've read, or what I've found out so far, it appears as though Tolkien never fully humanized orcs in the way that the Rings of Power seems to be attempting to do. I mean, I could be wrong, but from what I found so far and what other people were saying, it seems as that he was clear that the orcs were inherently corrupted people, things, whatever you want to call them, and that they derived from elves or even men, and they were some kind of mockery by Morgoth, made by Morgoth. And he actually speculated about their origins and how they reproduce, and he made a point, as from what I could see, I could be wrong, because it's kind of hard to find concrete evidence of this, but from everything that I've seen, Tolkien apparently made a point that the orcs were evil by nature. That was something that everybody agreed on, and they were unable to live up to any moral standards. And I could see that this presented a theological dilemma for the guy, because he considered the idea that even really corrupted creatures like orcs could have souls. But in the end, he depicted them as creatures incapable of moral goodness, and they're just designed to be creatures or weapons of mass destruction and domination. So how does this play into Rings of Power? If we're going with what is based on the lore for Tolkien, or what we have now narratively, humanizing the orcs by showing them with families and peaceful motivations, as we see here in episode, what episode is this? 3, season 2, where you're like, oh my god, that's so sad. These same people who would tear the flesh off of human beings and babies and whatnot. It kind of conflicts with their established role in the franchise. They're meant to be symbols of corruption, and their portrayal as brutal, sadistic creatures aligned with this purpose. And while some people might think, oh, it's cute showing him with his family and his ugly ass freaking wife that looks like she's just looks way worse for wear than he is, this adds a more three-dimensional quality, because he doesn't want to go to war. He wants to stay with his wife and kid. It undermines their primary function as antagonists who exist to serve evil. But then again, it seems as though modern shows like this like to blur the lines between evil and good, showcasing the good guys as bad guys or stupid and incompetent, and the bad guys as good or misunderstood. Exhibit A. Khmer from the Acolyte. I guess they're going for the whole, it's supposed to be perplexing. You're supposed to be wondering whether or not you're supposed to feel bad for the freaking orcs. These are probably the same kind of people who thirst for Jeffrey Dahmer. Look, this is me saying this. I love writing characters and fleshing out my characters and seeing where everybody comes from. But there is a thing, especially in on-screen adaptations. You can get more away with it with, I guess, stories. I guess it depends on the way that you tell the story. But there is an issue when you make bad guys too sympathetic. You run the risk of messing up the whole reason that they're villains in the first place. Like, if we start feeling sorry for them or understanding where they're coming from and you ebb too much on that, it totally deflates the tension. It's like, imagine watching a horror movie, right? Where halfway through, the killer sits down to explain how they had a rough childhood, and suddenly you're not scared anymore. You're just like, oh my God, poor thing. Oh, I can fix him. You know, and that's a problem. Like, maybe girls are into that shit, but guys definitely are not. They don't want to see that in their fantasy. And the thing is, audiences need someone to root against, someone they can fully invest in hating without feeling guilty. And if you blur the lines way too much, people get confused about who they're supposed to cheer for.
It seems like not to be another guy talking about racism in Lord of the Rings or Tolkien's works more broadly, but every time I come on here, there's some guy talking about racism in Tolkien's works, and it's always a white guy. And I want to just sort of clear it up. Is Tolkien racist? Is Lord of the Rings racist? Yes. Short answer, yes. Long answer, yeah. Yeah, He fought in World War I. He grew up in England. Of course he was racist. That man's written some of the most racist things you could possibly believe. They just didn't get published because they're not good for us. They're too racist. Right? Yeah, sure. A main theme of Lord of the Rings is like, be good to people around you, right? That doesn't balance out the fact that another main, like, supporting pillar of Tolkien's works and the things that came out of it are, there are types of people that are bad. That's racism.
Wow.
Okay, so I get where all of these misgivings are coming from, and the possible reason as to why Rings of Power is a little bit reluctant to portray the orcs as evil beings. First off, I have to reiterate, I know this is a conversation surrounding this whole thing, so I do have to point out the inaccuracies. Just because Tolkien was a British man who lived through World War I and the late 1800s doesn't automatically stamp him as a racist. It's kind of lazy to assume everyone from that time period carried racist ideals. While it's true that certain views were more prevalent then, that doesn't mean that Tolkien himself subscribed to them, especially when there's no solid evidence to back that claim up. It's like saying someone who fought in a war must love violence, or, everybody who existed in that specific time period, no matter where they were in the entire world, they're all racist if they're of a certain skin color. That's kind of silly. People will say, oh, he wrote all this unpublished racist stuff. Okay, where is it? I would like some sources to that. I tried finding them. I cannot find anything. And if it's unpublished, then how do you know? Where is it? I'm just saying. And saying someone wrote racist things that were never released is a sneaky way of making these baseless accusations and not providing the evidence, not having any proof for it. It's just very convenient to claim these things exist when no one can see them or challenge it. And then I have to also be thinking, if this person thinks that orcs are racist based on their own worldview or whatever internal stuff they have going on, then how do I know the other works that Tolkien did are actually racist, or it's just the person seeing that through that lens because that's how they see the world and how they look down on other people? It's also interesting that people are pointing out the whole thing with the orcs and these bad guys that now can't be bad guys. Their portrayal of them is racist. I think they're missing the whole point, because Lord of the Rings, it's kind of ironic, was all about friendship and these diverse races coming together, overcoming their prejudices, and working towards a common goal. Maybe we didn't watch the same movies, and it has been a while, so I could be wrong, but you've got Legolas, an elf, becoming actually best friends with Gimli, a dwarf, two races that literally start the story not being able to stand each other. I think their races actually loathe each other. So the fact that these two are friends is something. And we see that translated also with Durin and Elrond. Sorry, can we admire the beauty of Legolas? This is what I admire. This is what an elf would look like. Doesn't matter what the freaking skin color of the elf is. Look how, and I'm sure they smoothed over his face with CGI or filters or whatever they used back then. But dude, look at Legolas, man. Even when he's wet, he's spanking good looking. In most fantasy stories that I've read, when they depict elves, they always have this ethereal beauty. They're like fantasies or Tolkien's version of anime characters. Take the top 1 to 2% of humankind that is super beautiful and then put that set on elves. That's what elves would be. Anyway, unless I'm wrong, the whole plot revolves around unity and fighting a greater evil, not perpetuating racist ideas. So the fact that some characters transcend their racial biases and build friendships flies right in the face of the argument that Tolkien was racist. And if he was, well, he did good for society in making this movie, because I look at this movie and to me it's a poster child on not being racist or overcoming racism. Kind of like Land Before Time.
Come, Sarah. Three horns never play with long necks.
Littlefoot.
Three horns never play with long necks.
And this will always be such a powerful movie for me because, like Lord of the Rings, they overcome their prejudices, and Sarah still had a lot of that prejudice even by the end of the movie. But they learned to be friends and work together. Having all lost their parents and sharing a common traumatic experience, this was definitely the type of movie that someone who was trying to perpetuate racism would not make.
That doesn't balance out the fact that another main, supporting pillar of Tolkien's works and the things that came out of it are there are types of people that are bad.
But are the orcs people? They're literally described as being twisted, corrupted versions of other beings, and they symbolize evil, destruction, and domination. If there was an outbreak and we all became zombies, would we still be human? Even if we could speak to each other? I think this person is confused because orcs weren't meant to be people like elves, men, and dwarves who could change and grow. They're supposed to be a stand-in for all the evils that could not be reasoned with, similar to pollution or an asteroid hurtling towards Earth. I mean, for crying out loud, just as an example, why aren't we accusing mosquitoes or flies of being symbolic of racism when we hate them? They're not evil either. Ticks, flies, and mosquitoes are just doing what they do, but no one has a problem with calling them pests and wanting to get rid of them. It's funny that people get so hung up on the orcs being irredeemable when no one's protesting against the universally hated things like these freaking viruses or ticks or flies or any other pests that you can think of. Yes, they're necessary, but people still hate them. I don't see how mosquitoes. I don't see how they're necessary. I'm sorry. Yes, their larva is for fish, but if they died out, something else would take its place. Ticks, bruh, I don't know. Like, why? Flies, I get. Flies, I understand. They're maggots. Ticks? Okay, unless you're talking about a way for nature to curb itself by spreading certain diseases and inoculating certain creatures and species, but still. And tell me why. Freaking A. We had a vaccine for humans and now we don't. We have them for our dogs, but we don't have for humans. With us living out in rural areas out here, we're supposed to be going out in the brush and come back covered in freaking 1,000 dots that are sucking onto our freaking skin, my guy. And we don't have freaking vaccines when there's a tick that actually causes you to have an illness for a few years or possibly for the rest of your life where you can't eat certain meat. That's what the vegans should be perpetuating. You want to turn people vegan? Get them bitten by a tick and make it cause this illness. It fucks with your protein receptors or something like that. You can't eat certain food like beef and pork and whatever. You can eat fish and chicken and that's it. But yeah, like, what is actually the purpose of that? Unless, you know what I'm saying? Whatever, it's each his own. People still hate them. And people twisting Tolkien's work to fit this narrative about racism are ignoring the much larger message about unity and overcoming difference, and that's the heart of the story. The portrayal of orcs as inherently bad is less about race and more about creating this tangible, representation of evil that characters can rally against and come together and, despite their differences, try to solve this problem. That's how we get stories. We don't have to complicate everything by making it a freaking race issue. You're missing the whole point. You don't need to do this, bro. Even if they decided to do this with Sauron, which, okay, I get, why are you doing it with the orcs? It's just weird. Anyway, this troll thing comes and it's killed its messengers and it's like, all right, I'm on your side, but I killed one of your guys. Oh well, what are you gonna do? Nothing, anyways. Celebrimbor brings the dwarves to him and this guy, Sauron, he doesn't know it's Sauron, but he's like, yeah, Elrond never says anything nice about me. He said nice things to you about me? Really? I know my friend and he doesn't talk like that. Something is wrong with you. Disa wants him to talk to his father and at least tell him about it, but Doran knows that something is up. His instincts are telling him not to trust that guy. I also love in this whole scene how Sauron is able to get Celebrimbor to do certain things just by playing to his insecurities and stuff. Okay, note to self, I know how thirsty people could be. Never drink standing water. Just don't do it, like, obviously.
Vomiting is not celebrated. Yes, it is.
Then, oh no, Isildur comes upon somebody who stabs him. It's a pretty girl. And she's like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. We already know there's gonna be a romance between them, because why wouldn't there be? She already is affianced to someone else. And while she tells us to keep going, he's like, no, we gotta help these people that were also killed by the orcs. And then they get captured, because he's an idiot. But then freaking, what's his name? Arondir, the sexy brown elf, starts doing backwards tornado freaking jumps like we've never seen before, and like, offs almost everyone. What kind of move was that? Like, what kind of move? How? What in the world? He's just like, ass first. Bro, there's so many ways that could have that ended badly for you. Just, why would you go and ass first? The sword is on the other side of you. Or does he have a sword? No, he has a freaking bow. Okay, so you have a bow. You're gonna go and ask first? Okay. Now, here's the part that just got me, right? This guy is carrying something, and we find out that his girlfriend, who they were setting up to be a main character, apparently died. They just completely scrubbed her from the story. She was fine, and then she's not, because apparently she didn't want to come back. People are saying, oh, she was doing activist work in Iran or whatever, and that's great, but it's kind of funny how they did this whole thing. It's like, oh, she was fine, and everything's gonna be great with this character that nobody really cares about. I mean, and then she just dies, and that's it. Like, oh no, we're so sad. Why are we sad now? We didn't know her. She was such a nothing character that nothing was lost. It's just now this guy is upset, but we don't even know him enough. I mean, I like him. He's, I guess, you know, but most of these characters are forgettable. And the only person I can say that I actually care if any harm comes to them is Durin and Elrond. That's it. If they die, I would be sad. Durin more so. I think Durin's my favorite character in terms of how far my compassion goes. But if this guy dies, ooh, yeah, I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care at all. He always has that stoic face on. I guess that's his personality. But now it's like, okay, well, what is the point of this? Like, oh, the character's not coming back. The actors don't want to come back, and she's fighting in the Middle East somewhere. Just kill her off, just off screen. Like they did with House of Cards, and then had the gall to keep going when they knew the main character was the whole draw for the freaking show in the first place. Luckily, this isn't the case here. And then this dipshit, I don't know why I dislike this person so much. It's not that he's a bad person, he's just annoying. And it's just throwing me off because he looks like a mushroom-headed version of Long Beach Griffey for some reason. Like a freaking imposter. I know that makes no sense to some people. Don't ask for the life of me why the two of them look alike. And I love Long Beach Griffey, so I don't know why this kid specifically is ticking me off. Maybe it's because he's also mean to the elf guy and he blames him for like not protecting his mother. Okay. Durin eats his humility pie and goes before his father and says he was wrong. And the father's all proud. I'm like, oh my god, damn. I know that must hurt. Look, this dude looks like he's always angry.
All those years you were watching us, did you ever know my father?
No, I did not.
Neither did I, but I know this much. He wasn't you. And anything you were to me is ashes now. So for my part, we don't ever need to speak again.
Sure hope there doesn't come a situation where you're in trouble and you need someone to help you and he's the only person available. Anyway, Short Beach Griffey and Isildur are friends. Isildur wants to save his horse because the bad guys that got away went off with Barrett. Meanwhile, he's creating a spark with this girl, and Short Beach Griffey with the Mowgli haircut overhears Isildur talking about how his mom sacrificed herself, and this girl's cheering him up because of course she feels bad, he needs fixing. After they go to have the plant to the horse, we find out that, oh no, just as I expected, she's one of those Sauron people, and she tries to burn it away. But you know, it's okay, because she's gonna be a good person later on, because of course she is. Women can't be evil. Then they go to get back Barrack, and it's successful, except most of these people are taken away, and so is Shortbeak Griffey, with this big giant thing that's breaking, and I already know exactly what it is. It's a freaking tree person, because of course it is, and he gets yeeted. Then some crazy metal stuff happens. This guy had mentioned, or someone had mentioned, that if an eagle shows up, it's a good omen. The queen comes, and there's obviously unrest, and you have people shouting out, you shouldn't lead because you can't freaking see, and I can't really blame them. Then the squinch face woman blows up her spot by showing that the crystal ball thing is what the queen had been using for advice. And clearly, people are freaked out because they're like, oh my god, voodoo! Then a freaking eagle, when all the people start rioting, comes from out of nowhere. And it's like, tweet, tweet, you bastards! And I swear to God, just saying this whole story sounds ridiculous. If you just relate the whole thing to somebody who doesn't know anything about this, they're gonna be like, what the hell are you talking about, bro? This sounds like a dream that you had after you went to bed high. But that's exactly what happens here. And the eagle's just there, and the queen's like, no, it's making that other guy look good. And he takes advantage of this, her rival, and says, yes! Then everyone starts cheering as the wind blows his hair and the shining, the freaking son of God shines upon, I don't even know what's happening. So of course, people like strength. They're looking for something like this. This queen ain't shit. And of course, Sauron, who is posing as an elf god helper, what have you, is making the dwarven rings. Sauron takes one specifically and throws it into the magma, lava, and he casts it in, or the mithril. And Celebrimbor looks so, like, you could tell from his face, oh, you wanted to specifically touch it? That's strange. Why did you want to take it from me and specifically touch it so you could throw it in? You could tell by the way Celebrimbor looks like something. He's not okay with this. He feels kind of weird about it. And, yeah. Celebrimbor is wondering, like, did I freaking mess up? Oh no. And yes, it's a little bit too late for Celebrimbor to feel bad about all of this, but it is what it is. But his face says everything that we need to know. He knows something is up, something is wrong. And it is the 3rd episode of the 2nd season, and I am still rooting for Sauron.
If Sauron bad, why Sauron hot?
Because hot people get away with stuff way easier.